Everyone said I had the perfect life, until I realized I was the only one who believed it. The house was quiet, like a held breath before a storm. You know the kind, big enough to echo your footsteps, but just warm enough to make you think you're not alone in it. That morning, sunlight filtered through the bay windows, glancing off polished countertops and curated decor that my wife, Elise, had arranged like a showroom. She always had a taste for appearances. I sat at the kitchen table, coffee cooling beside my untouched toast. Across the island, our wedding photo stared back at me from its minimalist frame, her in that off-white lace dress, me with a grin I used to wear without effort. That smile hadn't made an appearance in months, but you wouldn't know it from the outside. The neighbors thought we were goals. My boss called Elise a trophy with a brain. Even the barista downtown asked how my fairy tale marriage was going. You learn to nod and smile. It's easier than explaining that fairy tales are written by people who've never had to sign mortgage papers with someone who forgets your birthday, but never forgets to charge the Tesla. Elise had this way of talking to me with her eyes closed, like she was rehearsing lines in a play she no longer believed in. "You work too much," she said the night before, pouring herself a glass of that Merlot she only buys when she's disappointed. We never talk anymore. "I'm here now," I said. "No," she replied. "You're present, not here." And that was our rhythm. Subtle jabs dressed as concern. Two people dancing around a conversation we were both too proud, or too afraid, to finish. That Friday morning, something odd happened. A letter arrived. Not email, not a text. An actual envelope with my name on it in looping handwriting I didn't recognize. Inside, a card with a single sentence written in blue ink. "Do you still believe her smile?" No return address. No signature. Just that. I read it 3 times before Elise walked into the room, wearing her yoga set, black and sleek, like armor with a Lululemon tag. "What's that?" she asked, nodding toward the card. "Nothing." I lied, tucking it into my jacket pocket. She didn't press. She rarely did anymore. Curiosity had quietly vacated our relationship sometime between her 3rd promotion and my 2nd business trip to Dubai. We went about our day like always, her heading to the studio, me to the office. But the question followed me like a shadow glued to my heels. "Do you still believe her smile?" That evening, I came home early. No reason, just a feeling. The house was dim, scented faintly with rosemary and something else I couldn't place, like a whisper of cologne I didn't wear. Elise wasn't in the living room or the kitchen. I heard faint music upstairs. Jazz. The kind she never played when I was home. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step another question I wasn't ready to answer. I paused outside the bedroom door. Her laugh floated through the crack in the frame. Not the polite chuckle she gave at dinner parties. No, this was light, real, familiar. Too familiar. I didn't open the door. I didn't knock. I just stood there, heart pounding like a man with something to hide. Except I had nothing to hide. Just suspicions. And a card with a question I couldn't stop hearing in my head. Later, when she came down, cheeks flushed and hair freshly brushed, she smiled. That smile. And for the first time in 8 years, I didn't smile back. That night, I poured myself a drink I didn't want and opened a folder I wasn't supposed to keep. Inside was the truth I had buried months ago, and it was starting to rot. He introduced himself like a friend, but looked at me like a threat. It started with a dinner Elise insisted on hosting. "No excuses," she said, kissing my cheek like it was still a habit. "Just a few people from work. You'll like them." I had my doubts. Elise's co-workers always smelled like money and smiled like politics. Tight, practiced, and hungry. But I nodded. What else was I going to do? Say no and prove her right. The house was immaculate, of course. Elise knew how to prepare a scene. Candles, music, a roast she hadn't cooked herself but plated as if she had. She looked radiant, the kind of radiant that doesn't come from love, but from control. Her eyes darted from detail to detail, perfecting the illusion. The doorbell rang at exactly 7 o'clock. She floated to answer it. "Logan," she called. "This is Daniel." Tall, confident, tailored. The kind of man who could sell you your own watch and make you thank him for it. He smiled at me like we were old friends playing a game with unspoken rules. "You must be the husband," he said. "Heard a lot about you." "Hope it was flattering," I said, my voice too calm. He chuckled, smooth as glass. "Depends who you ask." Dinner was a parade of compliments. Elise laughed a little too hard. Daniel told stories a little too personal. He knew about my job, my hobbies, even the summer cabin I hadn't mentioned in years. At one point, Elise excused herself to take a call. Daniel leaned back in his chair, glass of wine in hand, eyes on me like a man about to open a chessboard. "You ever wonder how much of your life is real?" he asked. I blinked. "Excuse me." He swirled his drink, voice low. "You work. You provide. You play the role. But has it ever occurred to you, maybe you're the only one still playing?" I didn't answer. Something about him was off. Not just smug, deliberate. Elise returned, smiling too widely. "Everything okay?" she asked, her eyes flicking between us. "Perfect," Daniel said. After dessert, I offered to walk him out. He paused at the doorway, hands in his coat pockets. "For what it's worth," he said, "I think you're a good man." "That's supposed to comfort me?" "No," he said. "It's supposed to make it harder. For both of you." Then he handed me a small folded napkin and left without another word. Inside it was a single line, handwritten. "Next time she says she's at yoga, follow her." Elise came back into the foyer moments later, looking at me with that well-rehearsed concern. "He didn't say anything weird, did he?" "Depends," I said. "How long have you known him?" "Oh, a few months," she said too quickly. "He works in finance. I think we're on a joint project next quarter." I nodded, slipping the napkin into my pocket. Seemed to know a lot about me. She tilted her head, smiling like someone holding a blade behind her back. "I talk about you. A lot." I stared at her for a long moment, the way someone might stare at a painting they once loved, realizing the colors were fading. That night, she fell asleep instantly. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Maybe the worst part of betrayal isn't the act. It's the moment you start questioning your sanity. The moment you realize you weren't imagining things. You were just too in love to see clearly. That moment was here. And this time, I was done pretending I couldn't see the cracks. I waited until morning. Then I packed the camera, the one she didn't know I still had, and made sure the lens was clean. It's strange how silence can scream louder than any confession. Wednesday, Elise's yoga night. She kissed me goodbye with the kind of casual affection people practice after they've already stopped meaning it. Same perfume, same ponytail, same lie. She was out the door by 6:04 p.m. sharp, mat in one hand, phone already glued to the other. I waited 6 minutes, just enough time for her to think she was safe. Then I left. The camera sat in the passenger seat beside me. It wasn't a spy gadget, just a decent DSLR with a zoom lens and a tripod. I'm not a detective. I'm a man who finally ran out of denial. The yoga studio was downtown. Windows tall and fogged, women moving like graceful ghosts behind them. But Elise wasn't among them. I waited. 30 minutes passed. No Elise. So I followed the routine Daniel hinted at. Sure enough, she appeared. But not at the studio. She was across the street, slipping into a cafe called La Rue. Not a gym bag in sight. Instead, she wore something entirely different, heels, a cream blouse tucked into a fitted skirt, hair brushed out, lipstick darker than she usually wears for work. Yoga, apparently, had become remarkably glamorous. I parked 2 blocks away and approached on foot. Through the window, I saw her already seated, laughing. Across from her sat Daniel. The table between them held 2 drinks, untouched. Her hand was on his wrist. His eyes were on her mouth. That moment didn't break me. It clarified me. I didn't storm in. Didn't scream. Didn't let the camera shake as I captured 4 clean photos through the glass. One of the hand. One of the smile. One of Daniel leaning closer. And one of Elise whispering something in his ear that made him smirk like a man who'd won a bet. Then I left. Quietly. Like a ghost stepping out of a story I didn't write. Back in the car, I reviewed the images. No deniability. No gray areas. Just truth, pixel by pixel. And still, what hurt most wasn't the cheating. It was the comfort. The ease. The casual intimacy of 2 people who didn't even bother to hide it well. I got home before she did. Of course I did. She would give it another 30 minutes, then text me about how class ran late. Something about holding poses longer. Inner peace. A traffic jam, if she needed extra flair. At 8:46 p.m., I got the text. "Hey babe. Sorry yoga ran over. Be home soon, Red Heart." I stared at the screen like it was a joke told in poor taste. Then I typed back. "No worries. Dinner's waiting." She came in humming, placed her keys in the bowl, slipped out of her shoes with a sigh of false exhaustion. "Smells great," she said, heading toward the kitchen. "What's the occasion?" "Just wanted a quiet night," I replied, placing 2 plates on the table. "Figured we could reconnect." Ah, she smiled, soft and practiced. That's sweet. We ate in silence, just long enough for the tension to settle into the silverware. Then I handed her a small black envelope. She blinked. What's this? Proof, I said. Her hands froze mid-reach. Elise, I said, voice calm. I saw you tonight. I know where you were. And I know who you were with. For a moment, her face didn't move. Then, slowly, the mask cracked. Not shattered. Just slipped. Is this a confrontation? She asked, voice flat. No, I said. It's a courtesy. So you'll understand what happens next. She opened the envelope, pulled out the photos. One by one. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. You always said I was too passive, I said, sipping my wine. But passivity is a choice. And I've chosen differently. She set the photos down with careful fingers. This doesn't have to get messy. I agree, I said. Which is why I've already made arrangements. Her eyes narrowed. What kind of arrangements? I stood up, collected my plate, smiled. You'll find out soon enough. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't loud. It's quiet, calculated, and already in motion. She thought the silence meant surrender, but I was just loading the final piece. For 3 days, Elise acted like the conversation never happened. She still made her morning smoothies. Still called me love when she needed a favor. Still wore that same burgundy robe after showers like it wasn't stained with lies. I let her. Not because I was weak. Because I was calculating. She thought my silence was a retreat. A man nursing his ego with quiet resentment. What she didn't realize was that I wasn't retreating. I was preparing. Monday, I filed the paperwork. Divorce. Discreet. Precise. I consulted a lawyer 2 weeks prior. She was efficient, and more importantly, fascinated by people like Elise. She said my case was clean, no children, joint assets divided 60/40 in my favor due to a clause Elise forgot she signed years ago. The clause? A fidelity addendum. She had insisted we include it back when her salary outpaced mine. I wasn't a threat back then. Just a man with a slower career and a loyal heart. So she agreed without a blink. Funny how arrogance becomes a paper trail. Tuesday, I met with HR. I didn't want revenge through scandal. I wanted clarity. Dignity. But I also didn't want Daniel thinking he'd gotten away with it. He wasn't just Elise's lover. He was also my company's newest investment advisor. Conflict of interest. Clear breach of policy. I passed the photos and timeline to the board anonymously. Let them chew on the ethics over espresso. By Wednesday morning, his access card was deactivated. By Thursday, Elise would receive an email about the audit. I wasn't sabotaging her career. I was simply lifting the rug she so confidently swept everything under. That night, she came home late. Strategy dinner, she said, kicking off her heels. Drained. I nodded. I'll bet. She didn't notice the envelope on the hall table. Not at first. But she noticed when I picked up a box and walked past her straight to the car. Where are you going? She asked. Somewhere I won't be lied to. She frowned. Don't be dramatic. That's when I handed her the envelope. She opened it with the care of someone hoping for a check and finding a ticking clock instead. Inside, the divorce papers, my key, and a single photo. The one where she's laughing at Daniel's whisper, eyes glowing with a joy I hadn't seen in months. Logan, she started. But I held up a hand. This isn't a conversation. You've already said everything you needed to. She followed me outside, barefoot, trailing me like regret. You think this solves anything? She hissed. You think this is noble? No, I said, loading the last box into my truck. I think it's overdue. She stood there, robe flapping slightly in the breeze, arms folded over the life she thought she'd control forever. Where will you go? I smiled. Somewhere honest. Then I got in, turned the key, and left her standing there. Not with anger. Not with revenge. Just with herself. Because I hadn't just walked away, I'd also left a parting gift. One she wouldn't unwrap until it was far too late. Sometimes, the best revenge arrives wrapped in kindness, just enough to make them lower their guard. When I walked out, I didn't take much. Just a box of clothes, a laptop, and one folder, the same one I started building 6 months ago. Before I had proof. Before I had names. Before I had the courage to admit I wasn't crazy. What Elise didn't know, and probably never imagined, was that the thing she weaponized against me became my blueprint for freedom. Her arrogance gave me everything I needed. Flashback, 3 months prior. Elise had left her work tablet open on the couch while she made a smoothie in the kitchen. I wasn't snooping. Not at first. But a name on the screen caught my eye. Daniel Rhodes. Subject, back to the hotel Friday? Missed that smirk. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. The preview was enough. That was the moment something changed in me. I began collecting. Quietly. Calmly. Calendar screenshots. GPS data from our shared car account. A few choice audio recordings using a cheap pocket device I kept tucked under the ottoman. I wasn't obsessive. I was deliberate. Then I made copies. 3 USB drives. One in my lawyer's safe. One in a bank deposit box. And one mailed to myself under a false cinder, never opened, postmarked and sealed as legal insurance. It wasn't just blackmail. It was protection. Because Elise played dirty when she panicked. I knew that. I'd seen it when she fought vendors, colleagues, even her own sister. And when this blew up, she'd want to smear me. Too late. I'd already printed the story. Present day. I moved into a condo downtown. Small, clean, and honest. No curated aesthetic. No tension humming through the walls like a trapped screen. Just peace. The next morning, the gift was delivered to Elise's office. A small, white envelope. No return address. No note. Just a single printed page. Her own email. The one she sent to Daniel a week ago. Logan's getting suspicious. If this goes south, I'll say he threatened me. Keep text clean. Use the second phone only. Don't worry, I know how to make him look unstable. It wasn't revenge. It was a mirror. And I made sure the board saw it too. By 2 p.m., Daniel had been asked to resign quietly. By 3 p.m., Elise's inbox was flooded with HR inquiries and board scheduling meetings. And by 5 p.m., my lawyer had received a call from hers, urgently requesting mediation. The gift Elise gave me wasn't an affair. It was her belief that I wouldn't fight back. She gave me the blueprint by underestimating me. And now I had something better than vengeance. Leverage. Later that night, I received a message from an unknown number. You really think you're clean in all this? You'll regret this move. You think you're smarter than me? I didn't respond. But I saved it. Every fire needs oxygen to burn. I had just cut off the supply. And as Elise sat in her office reading her own betrayal, I was already sitting down with someone who knew even more secrets about her than I did. I didn't go looking for her. She found me, exactly when Elise needed her not to. The restaurant was a quiet spot off Main. Linen napkins. Classical music no one really listened to. The kind of place people used for affairs or apologies. But I wasn't there for either. Across from me sat a woman in a charcoal blazer and a gaze that cut like frost. She stirred her coffee once, then looked up. I assume you know who I am. I nodded. Clara Hughes, HR director. Formerly Elise's mentor, and, briefly, her friend. She smiled at the word friend, like it tasted bad going down. I read the email, she continued. And I read between the lines. That wasn't just a fling. That was a blueprint. And frankly, Logan, it wasn't her first time. I leaned forward. What do you mean? Clara didn't flinch. She's done this before. Always with someone below her, an analyst, a consultant, a strategic partner. She keeps it quiet. Gets bored. Moves on. She ever get caught? She gets protected. Clara's eyes narrowed. Until now. That caught me off guard. She reached into her handbag and slid a slim flash drive across the table. Emails. Expense reports. Audio from a team offsite. Elise didn't just cheat on you. She used company money to fund it. That's not adultery. That's embezzlement. My stomach turned. Not from surprise, but from confirmation. Everything I'd suspected had roots. And Clara had just handed me the forest. Why are you helping me? I asked. She looked away, just for a second. Elise made me fire a woman last year who tried to speak up about her. Ruined her career. She's smart, Logan. But she thinks she's untouchable. I hate the kind of smart. I nodded slowly. So what now? That depends on you, she said. The board will meet next week. If this lands on their desk before then, she's done. Career-wise. Reputation. Gone. She sipped her coffee. But if you wait, she might spin it. I didn't answer right away. I watched a couple laugh at the bar, clueless to the war being waged at table 11. Clara stood. You'll do what you need to, she said. Just remember, people like Elise only fear two things, exposure and irrelevance. She paused. And you've already made her irrelevant. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not from guilt. From clarity. I wasn't the man she walked over anymore. I was the man holding the map to the minefield she built herself. And tomorrow, I'd light the first match, not to destroy her life, but to show everyone else how fake the shine had always been. You don't burn someone down in anger, you do it in silence, with clean hands and calm breath. Friday, 6 a.m. I stood in front of the mirror, shaving. The same one Elise had fogged with her laughter, her lies, and her red-lipped smiles. This morning, it stared back at a different man. No rage. No self-pity. Just strategy. The drive was quiet. I didn't play music. I wanted to hear the engine, the pulse of the city, and the voice in my head that kept repeating, "Finish what you started." At 6:47 a.m., I placed the anonymous flash drive inside a padded envelope addressed to the chairman of Elise's board. No return name, just a printed label. Urgent, ethics material, review before Monday. I dropped it in the corporate overnight box and walked away. No dramatics. No calls. No explanations. Elise would never see it coming. By 10 a.m., the match had been struck. At 1 p.m., Elise called me. I let it ring out. At 1:03, a second call. Voicemail, "Logan, something's happening. I don't know who. If you did something, please just talk to me." But we'd already talked. I just wasn't speaking her language anymore. That night, I poured myself a glass of scotch. The good one. Sat by the window. Watched the rain slide down like the final lines of a letter I never needed to send. Elise would spend the weekend unraveling. Trying to find someone to blame. But it wouldn't matter. Because when a person's entire power is built on appearance, truth is the only solvent you need. And while Elise scrambled for handholds, I was already reaching out to someone she'd sworn never to let me meet. Every magician has an assistant. And every assistant knows where the bodies are buried. His name was Alan Griggs, corporate attorney. Quiet, polished, loyal, to Elise. Or so she thought. I met him in a corner booth of a library cafe, the kind of place where people whisper even when there's nothing to hide. "You came," I said. He adjusted his cufflink. "Only because I'm tired of cleaning up her messes." He didn't ask why we were meeting. He knew. Alan walked me through the facade Elise had spent years perfecting. The investments, the networking trips, the shell LLCs. She wasn't just cheating on me, she was cheating the company, the taxes, even herself. "She's a brilliant strategist," he said, sipping chamomile tea. "But she always underestimates the people closest to her." Sound familiar? He gave me one more document. A memo Elise wrote 6 months ago, instructing him to prepare for a quiet divorce, should the need arise. It outlined a PR campaign to make me look unstable, emotionally volatile, distant. "She was preparing for the collapse long before you even suspected it," he said. "But here's the thing, she never planned for resistance." He handed me a USB. "She didn't think you'd fight. Use it however you want. I'm out." And just like that, the curtain dropped. Now I didn't just have proof, I had her blueprint. Elise built her career like a cathedral, grand, beautiful, and one match away from holy fire. Monday morning. Corporate headquarters. Elise arrived at 8:04 a.m., red heels, navy dress, chin up like royalty. She didn't know yet. Not officially. At 8:15, she was summoned to the executive floor. At 8:23, her access badge failed at the glass gate. By 8:27, her office door was locked. HR was waiting. She called me at 8:29. I didn't answer. The board had questions. The memo. The emails. The financial inconsistencies. The travel reimbursements. The inappropriate relationship with a subordinate. The cover-up attempts. Her prepared, "Logan is emotionally unstable" folder didn't even get opened. Because Alan sent a second USB straight to legal. Her empire folded like a bad poker hand. She wasn't fired. She was offered resignation. Quietly. Quickly. Irrevocably. No references. No parachute. No applause. She left the building at 11:02 a.m. with a single box and her world crumbling in it. At noon, I received a text. "You destroyed me. You think this makes you better than me?" I stared at it. Then replied, "No. Just free from you." But I wasn't done yet. Because there was one final act, and she'd have to attend it whether she wanted to or not. Revenge doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes, it's a whisper you plant and let them water themselves. 3 weeks later, she thought the dust had settled. She was jobless, publicly humiliated, and moving back into the house she used to mock for being too suburban. And then, the letter arrived. A personal invitation. From me. We met in a garden. A public one. No lawyers. No threats. Just a table under a willow tree where Elise and I once took anniversary photos, years ago, when we were still pretending well. She walked up slowly. Eyes wary. Posture stiff. Why am I here? She asked. Because you still don't understand, I said. Understand what? I slid a small box across the table. She opened it. Inside, a silver necklace. The one I gave her on our first anniversary, but altered. Now it bore an engraving. You chose the gate. She looked up, confused. So I told her. I gave you everything: loyalty, patience, belief. And you used it like it was weakness. But the truth is, I stayed with you because I believed we could build something lasting. A garden. She said nothing. I continued. You had the gate open. You could have walked back through it. Talked. Owned it. Changed. Instead, you burned it behind you and laughed as I tried to water the ashes. I stood. So now, you live with what you built. I'm not angry, Elise. I'm done. She blinked, but didn't cry. That would have been too human. Too honest. Goodbye, I said. I walked away, the breeze behind me. I didn't look back. That was the difference between us. She needed the stage. I'd already built the exit. And as I stepped into the sunlight, I realized something simple. She may have betrayed me, but I was the one who finished the story.